Go.
It's Columbus Day, and I wrote this one poem called "And Then We Were Found." Basically. I'm looking at pre-Columbian history here. The one thing we've learned is there's one thing for sure, that history is theirs who would write it, and those who would rule would give us their truth and force us all here to recite it. From ancient Greek cultures to grand Persian sultans to empires of Egypt and Rome. And China's Great Wall speaks nothing at all of culture and history at home. Was ours not worth knowing? Our people, our story? Of customs that long had been here? Of a world that was true and not really brand new, on record for thousands of years? Their history portrays we were sadly misplaced when 3 Spanish ships ran aground, and 500 nations received their salvation after waiting so long to be found. But they did pretty good for being lost in the woods, dating back to 2000 BC. Their writings were words, not hieroglyph forms like those found in Egypt and Greece. And the writings have shown this long had been home, and something the Maya were proud of. For infinite seasons, their Garden of Eden was one they were never cast out of. The Anasazi had built a palace with cliffs, which spirit inspired the thunder. This great canyon remains in Four Corners states, a mecca they simply called wonder. So why weren't we schooled of this nation of jewels, with traditions we still remember? A culture so near that in 1200 years they'd be taking the train up to Denver. Fort Ancients evolved with what they would call 3 sisters, corn, squash, and beans. And before they were found, their great serpent mound was crowned at Ohio Brush Creek. The Cahokian tribes built their cities astride the greatest American rivers. One village maintained and completely sustained 39,000 civilians. But one of the greatest nations of natives emerged from an Ihua reliance. From the Mexico Valley stood a glorious palace brought forth by the Aztec Alliance. The pyramid culture was left for the future, which spoke of the people's creator, and we truly admired the Incan Empire which prospered around the equator. Before they were found, the Tino were strong and harvested land in the sea. They used ancient ways for travel and trade, maintaining their guidelines for peace. For thousands of years, these nations were here with resources, wealth, and with power. Sharing assets abound before they were found, before the fruit had turned sour. Then Columbus showed up with 3 loads of nuts. The Tino received them as friends, though natives had thought that someone was lost, and they didn't believe it was them. Though cordial at first, this visit got worse. They resembled those guests we all know. They wear out their welcome, won't do what you tell them, and seems like they'll never go home. On the very next trip, they had 17 ships, and the natives had soon discovered they weren't here to trade, but to kill and enslave and make riches for only each other. In a 4-year time, 2/3 of them died, a genocide in full swing, slaying young and the old, for God and for gold. For them, that's the very same thing. The Columbus regime was a killing machine that ruled with terror and fear. This man, so admired, just had to be fired, so brutally scared his own peers. But his rule still applied that all natives must die throughout the Caribbean nation, and 1,000,001 strong were soon dead and gone through murder, disease, and starvation. We were much better off back when we were lost, back when we could truly excel. One way or another, the natives discovered Columbus was sent here from hell. And in this case, to destroy a whole race with no trace of hundreds of nations, teaching natives in class, enshrined Eurotrash is honored for killing relations. And by teaching our youth this version of truth, they're keeping their legend intact. Though entitled to keep the opinions they reap, they're never entitled to facts. And that's where it's at. They're ashamed of the facts, of what they had done to the natives, and can't figure out just how to slide out from lies that they've created. So on this historical day, we'll rain on parades to compete with lies and distortion. The facts that they're bending denies ethnic cleansings that happened in massive proportions. So if it's Columbus you want, he's yours, but don't flaunt by teaching this hoopla in class. Though natives are known for signals of smoke, we don't need it blown up our ass.